Sairam, everyone, welcome again. Uh, Looking forward to the session. I think last time हमने discussion start किया था on ceiling of desires, and Siddharth had very nicely, laid out in a very structured format what is desire, what is ceiling on desire, why do we do all of that. I think we had gone through most of the questions, if I remember, Siddharth. And I think the second last discussion चल रहा था, the final one was how to do dealing with ceiling on desires. So I think rather than giving you a long introduction, I'll keep it short. I'll pass it on to you because it's more of a continuation. So let's continue from where we left. Maybe if you want to just show us a summary of the last session in case somebody was not there, and then we can get started and probably leave some time in the end for questions, if any. Over to you, Sarah.
So loving Sairams and a wonderful evening to everyone. Offering my humble and prayerful salutations to our beloved Swami. Sairam to everyone.
Sairam, sir.
Sairam.
I don't know whether Sanjana auntie has joined, otherwise wishing her a very happy birthday. Am I audible enough?
No, yes, you are, sir.
Okay. I think Munira auntie is having some issue of, she's just pointing that I'm not able to hear. So just see if we can.
I think for the rest of us, it's that.
Yeah. So I think Sanjana auntie is not joined, but wishing her happy birthday. And I think we are in a very, very blissful period because we are very close to Ganesh Chaturthi on Friday. And in fact, I don't know how many of you know, the Jain religion follows the Paryushan.
Yeah. My wife follows it. She's a Jain.
Okay. So Paryushan today is the third day, in fact, and it culminates on the Ganpati day, 9th or 10th, I think, if I'm right, 9th rather. Why I mention about Paryushan is because it is a very, very low. I mean, some of us or most of us may not follow the religion, but the importance of Paryushan is very immense because it speaks a lot about introspection. It speaks a lot about going within, trying to cleanse ourselves from within. So it's a 8 days festival of inner cleanliness and inner introspection. That's the sum and substance of this entire piece. People follow fasting and all that is all rituals, irrespective of whatever. But ultimately, that is the main, the main purpose of this entire festival. And they use the word called pratikraman. Pratikraman is basically introspection of going within and trying to find out your real self, so which aligns with all kinds of religions. Pick any religion, it will ultimately talk about the same. So that is where we are. So very, very auspicious time. We just celebrated Janmashtami a week ago, and now we are into this period, and then Ganpati. So 2 birthdays. We are in between 2 birthdays, one of Krishna and one of Ganpati. And in between, we have this auspicious period of Paryushan. So a very, very blessed time, to be honest. And before we get into part 2, preferably this should be the part 2 and the last part of this topic of ceiling on desires. Let's quickly recap because we met almost 3 weeks ago, if I'm right. We had a 5th Sunday in between, so we couldn't catch up in between. But we, as Ashutosh said, that we have structured the entire topic into 5 broad questions, and so that we answer those questions and we kind of complete the topic. And in the session 1, we had 3 questions which we answered. Today we'll have 4th and the 5th one. Those 3 questions that we had, one was, what is desire? Okay, so we defined what is a desire and we explained the need, want, and desire, the 3 levels that we have to achieve. And desire obviously is the intense craving that we want desperately something else. A need is a basic foundation. Then it becomes want, which is little higher than the need. And then the want, when it becomes intense, it is called desire. So that 3-level explanation that we discussed on what is desire. Then we had types of desires. What are the 2 types of desires? One is the internal desire and one is the external or borrowed desires. So internal desires are which we are born with, which helps us to fulfill our purpose. And that's why God actually blesses us with the resources to fulfill those internal desires. Internal desires fulfillment is generally stress-free, makes life simple because that's the main purpose of our birth. I'm not talking purpose of life, but purpose of birth. So all the the mission of that particular life, as comes as part of the internal desires, and we are pulled towards that internal desires to fulfill. And that's why resources are provided, and life is generally stress-free when we implicitly follow our innate internal desires, which we are born with. External and borrowed desires are one which we take it from outside, and which are generally based on comparisons between, we spoke about the analogy of me and Ashutosh. I'm trying to borrow desires of Mercedes-Benz and the shirts, the branded clothing that he takes, and I'm a more of a middle-class guy. I have a limited means to achieve those, but I borrowed that desire from his lifestyle and trying to work extremely hard to achieve those. And that's why borrowed desires or external desires generally create a lot of stress in our life, because they are not the purpose which we are born with. Okay, so these are born out of comparisons. We also explained here that comparison for inspiration purpose is fine, but comparison to be one up against the other person is always creating stress, and which is actually not the mission of our life. So we have to be very careful. It's not that comparisons are bad. Comparison with an intention to improve, comparison with an intention to inspire ourselves. Say for example, Mahatma Gandhi or Subhash Chandra Bose, or pick any great divine personality. We get inspired looking at their life, and we would like to be like them. So inspiration is coming out of the comparison is acceptable, but comparison which leads to jealousy, which leads to ego, which we want to prove better than the other, that leads to a negative situation, and which leads to a stressful life that is there. So that's why we have to be very careful about borrowed desires and internal desires. These are two buckets that we thought about. Third question was, what is ceiling on desires? What do we mean? The entire purpose of the topic. And all of us discussed very clearly that it's not control of desires. Control of desires we demarcated as is a dangerous situation, because today we try to curb it, and tomorrow, like a springboard, it can bounce back and actually create more damage in future than it would have done today. So it's not control of desires, but trying to keep a lid. Ceiling is basically having a lid on the list of desires that we put across for ourselves. So that is where the purpose of this entire topic is. That what is ceiling on desires is having the lid on the list of unending desire that we have in our lives. Okay, we also had a homework. I don't know how many of you have done this, but we had a homework of listing out our own desires, what all desires we have, making a list of it, and then demarcating into what is our internal desires and what is our borrowed desires. Okay, so that piece was the homework that we had to do. If you have done, it will be very useful for us to, absorb what we will be discussing today. But these are the three questions, and then we very briefly towards the end we touched about why should we have ceiling on desires, which was the fourth question, which is mainly the benefits of having the ceiling on desires. And we touched upon the basic external benefits, which are visible material benefits in our life, which and we also saw Swami's discourse, 2-minute discourse on this, which basically where Swami says about savings on money, time, energy, and food, 4 broad things which he spoke about, and why they are important. And he said that selfishness and self-interest is the root cause of why we want more and more of everything. And Swami actually gave an example in the discourse about the liquor. The family, the head of the family, or the father in the family is kind of drunken, and he demands more and more liquor and uses all his money into those things which are not actually the need, they are actually the desires. And so anything that is born out of selfishness and self-interest actually dwindles away all the resources that we have, which is supposed to be meant for meeting our needs, and we are dragged into desires. And that's why the needs are not fulfilled, and it leads to a lot of challenges in the family. So money, time, energy, food. Banatwala auntie also spoke about one point of talking less. How do we talk less? And talking less actually saves our energy. So basically even money is energy. Money, time, energy, and food. Though Swami says 4 broad things, but practically if you see, food also is a form of energy for our Annamaya Kosha. Time is also a form of energy. Money is also a form of energy. So all these energies that are there, we need to be very careful in using those, so that one is we don't overdo things or over absorb things which will damage our system, and also we'll be saving the environment. Okay, and We also spoke towards the end about, the big fat Indian wedding. That example we took to understand that many times people borrow out of their limits to meet the status, which is the need, of the society, which actually is the, more of a mental status. In reality, the status is nothing, but it's more of, ego. But maintaining the status, we try to borrow, and then it becomes tough for us to meet those requirements subsequently to pay that loan back. And second example, we also said about that I may have a 10 lakh rupees budget. I have the resources for 10 lakhs to spend on the wedding, but I would, introspect and ask myself, do I really need to spend 10 lakhs, or I can do it in 5 lakhs? Almost as good as, the wedding which I would have done in 10 lakh rupees. Save those 5 lakh rupees and would have contributed for somebody's welfare or for the good of the society. So that is the next level of, segregating between within our means. How can I maximize the benefit for the good of society and take what is basically required for my basic needs? So that is where I think we stopped. Anything that we have missed out? Any points we have missed out?
I think that was pretty much it. Siddharth, you covered it very well.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Any questions?
Yeah,
Ashutosh.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm able to listen to you, but once ever, as I mentioned, you guys are going off, and I definitely can't see anybody's video. So I'm going to try and utilize whatever bandwidth I have, and hopefully listen in as much as possible. But I think I heard most of what you said, and it sounded like you covered all the points. So thanks for sharing that.
Any questions on these before we get into details of the next two questions?
Sairam Siddharth, there is some noise coming when you are speaking.
Is it? Yeah. Am I audible, or there is some?
You are audible, but then there is some dhap noise coming when you are moving your hands or something. So just see what it is.
Okay, is it still coming?
Yes, when you are moving your hands, it is still coming. Okay, so just I don't know why it's coming. Just check. Sairam.
Thank you, Sairam, sir. I hope I'll stop moving hands, but unfortunately, that's a natural way of explaining. So I'll see how I can keep it.
No, but even when you are speaking, it is coming. So see, check. I don't know what's wrong, but then even when you are speaking, the noise is coming. Just check.
Should I join back? Will that help?
No, I don't think you should do that. But just check. Something is wrong somewhere. Okay, Sairam.
Yeah, I know although Kavita is saying that, Siddharth, but I will say that it isn't as bad for me. I couldn't make that out. Probably Auntie's having a very good
it's fine.
having a very good headphone.
हाँ प्रतिभा जी आप भी देख लीजिए मुझे मालूम नहीं मुझे आवाज आ रही है आप
नहीं आपको आ रही होगी या करेक्ट बट मेरे को नहीं दिक्कत
आपको नहीं आ रहे हैं
आई डोंट नो अबाउट या अदर्स
sorry to disturb you.
No issues. Okay, so if there are no questions, I have a question for everyone. I think the most important question, which in fact this morning it dawned on me and I said, let's add this question, and it's very important. Why do we have desires? And this answer you will have to give. Why do we have desires?
Greed, I feel.
Greed, okay.
We are not confident of ourselves. If we take certain areas, it's not the final answer, but once somebody is confident of what he has achieved or got, then the external desires and the comparisons and all reduce quite a lot. One of the angles.
Okay, we are not confident of ourselves, and that could be the reason we are trying to find
discontentment. Discontentment. You're not content.
Discontentment, greed. We are not confident.
Actually, I think we don't feel we are complete. We are trying to complete ourselves, but actually we are all complete. There's no nothing missing in us. But that is why we feel by having desires and getting things from outside, we will complete ourselves and our bliss and our happiness.
think very nicely put. Very, very nicely put. We are trying to find our completeness outside. We feel that, by satisfying this requirement, probably I'll be complete. So I feel my starting point is I'm not complete. So by assuming that I'll get this, I'll get this, I'll get this, I'll be complete. Okay. Very interesting point. Right. Almost you are hit the bullet. So, but anybody else wants to contribute? Yeah.
Actually, I'll let others speak. I'll come in later.
I'm reading the chat also. Ambition and competitive nature. We think that desire will get us happiness. Okay. All this is only material. Okay. Same. Ambition and competitive nature. Okay. We want to be better than somebody else. That's a desire. That's a type of desire. I want to be better than somebody else. But why do we have desires?
Also, absence of love. I mean, if it's like, especially like when you are in presence of Baba, you actually forget everything. You feel complete. You feel absolute. Suddenly, those tensions and those odd worries are no longer have any ground when you are in his presence. Suddenly, you are okay with the situation. You are not unhappy. You are totally happy. So that's also an absence of that kind of a love one is not having or achieved.
Right. You actually, again, it's another way of looking at what Ushanti said about, feeling complete when in the presence of Swami.
Correct.
Well said. Yeah, Bindu Bhaiya, you have raised your hand.
Yes, Sairam.
Sairam.
What Usha Aunty said is a beautiful way of putting up to know that we are trying to complete ourselves. But at the same time, I also feel that we are born with a software, unfulfilled desires and the tendency, which is quite inherent in our basic operating system with which we have come. And finally, till we come to a stage where we realize, oh, this was the wrong software to start with. So until that happens, it quite subconsciously generates itself. Till we become conscious about it and start working on it. So that was something which I felt.
Interesting. No? Very important point. And just to take a leaf of what you said is, we are born to fulfill certain desires, which is where it goes back to the types of desires, the innate desire or internal desires, which we, in the second question that we answered. So to fulfill those desires, we have taken this birth. Okay. And so desires are the root cause of our birth. Okay. If I may conclude your point, desires is the root cause of our birth.
Yes.
Right. Very important point. Just we'll go deeper into this point. For now, we'll just park it. But feeling complete or feeling away or trying to satisfy desires, and that's where we are born. Very important point. Somebody was saying, Sujata aunty, you had unmuted yourself, and then I stepped in, I guess.
I feel desires arise mainly from attachment.
Okay.
When I'm attached to something, I desire things for it and out of it, both ways. So I want my children to do better than the others' children. The competitiveness comes because I have this thing about my children and others' children. So if you want to be desireless, the way to be is to be one with everyone. Now that's a very classical state of complete assimilation, but that's not, we have not even reached there. But until then, it is attachment that leads to desires, I feel.
Fine. I mean, that's a good point. Attachment leads to desires. So probably attachment is the root cause of our desires. Fine. Anybody else?
Attachment also means expectation, no?
Yes. Attachment leads to expectation, leads to desire.
Yes. See, any mother will always have an attachment with her own child, right? So that is how the desires come into the life. That's what I personally feel. However, today I may be very harsh with my daughter, or my daughter may be very harsh with her son. But then ultimately the desire is there. My child should study well. He should come up in life. He should be good. That is what the interpretation of desire is for me.
Okay. So no, the question was, why do we have desires itself? What type of desires is fine, but okay, your point in terms of attachment, expectations, those are the root cause of desire. Okay, trying to feel complete. We are incomplete, and that's why we have desires. Okay, and all points are valid. Even I think, as I read from the chat, also desire make us successful, to satisfy my ego. We want to be better in life. So I know the foundation, all the points are valid. If I can put all this into a crucible and come out with a conclusion is, we start in our life with the angle that we are not good enough. We start with in our life saying that I'm okay, but I'm not fully happy. So I need to find that happiness, that love, that completeness, okay, that self-dependency. We start with that premise, and that's why all the questions are what we want to do better in life. I'm just going by the chat panel also. We want to do better in life. So we are not better right now. That's a basic assumption, and that's why I want to be better. Okay. Second thing is ambition and competitive nature. As you said, my child needs to be better than somebody. So we have started with the premise that I'm not good enough. Okay. And the root question is, who is telling us I'm not good enough? Who is telling us I'm not good enough?
People around you. Yeah.
People around you is, is a reflection of what is inner being.
Correct.
Something within us tells us that I'm not good enough, or I need to be better, or I need to look for love and completeness. What is that something? If you answer this question, practically the session is over, because we have got everything in it. Even how to achieve that also is there in this answer.
Myself.
Myself. Okay, what is that myself?
Me, my ambition, my ego, my complexes, everything put together in a bag of desire to become more powerful and more commanding, maybe. I don't know the right word, probably. But it all boils down to self. The blame is mine, not another's.
You answered your question very nicely already. You said myself, but here the demarcation is the real self is different and the ego is different.
But I am full of ego in any case, right? So because I have not reached your level or Baba's level.
No. I mean, all of us are in that state. Not only you.
No, when I say you means we have not reached that upper level to say we are selfless or we have attained something in life. We are still at the bottom of the rung.
See, the thought of we are at the bottom of the rung is who is telling us this? Our ego
Myself.
is myself. We have to differentiate between the real self and the ego. The real self, which is, in other words, we call it conscience, God, or Atma, or soul, or whatever different words I use, or divine energy in a simplistic manner. That is the real self.
But that's my perception. That's my perception. It's not really true.
Mm-hmm. You mean perception of self?
Yeah, that I'm not good enough. That's my perception.
Of self? Yes, I will agree.
Yes. Yeah.
So perception comes where? It doesn't come in your real self, which is complete by itself. The real
First, you have to learn to love yourself.
We have to learn to know ourselves.
So, I mean, the knowing ourselves is obviously the highest state. But what we're trying to answer here is my ego, which is my artificial self, which makes me different from all of you, is telling me that I'm not good enough. Okay, which is separating me from you. It's like, Swami gives a beautiful example of bulbs. All of us have tube lights and bulbs at home. Okay, each bulb is different. One bulb looks at other bulb and says, see, you are glowing better than me. The other guy says, no, this guy is glowing better than me, both of us. But undercurrent is same, right? The current flowing is the same. The bulbs, watts are different, which is exactly all of us are. We are like those bulbs where the burning watt is different, but the undercurrent is the same, which is the real self. The undercurrent, which is a pure real self, which is a real identity. And the bulb on the top, what we see is just an artificial identity, which is telling us that I'm different than you. That's why each one bulb is talking to other that I'm better or I'm lower than you, which is basically coming out of ego. Ego, what we call it as the wheel, which is last time we saw that that demonstration on the bulb and the cloth. The cloth is the ego, right? That the cloth or the ego is telling us today that I'm not good enough. I need to be better. Now the problem is that cloth is trying to look outside for completeness. And so it has desires. Probably I'm incomplete. So if I get a 2 BHK house, I'll be happy. If I get a Mercedes Benz, I'll be happy. If I get a sizable big fat salary, I'll be happy. If I have a big family, I'll be happy. If I have a branded clothes, I'll be happy. So it's looking for that completeness in all of these, and that is where the root of desires are. मुझे ये चाहिए, ये चाहिए, ये चाहिए, तो ये होगा तो मैं complete हो जाऊंगा. The problem of life is because after we get also, not everything, but some of it we get also, still we remain unhappy. Because moment as desire is satisfied, the attraction toward desire is over. It doesn't give you everlasting happiness. Seeing the difference? Why do we have desire? We have desire because we have that ego which is telling us that basic premise that I'm not good enough. I need to be better. I need to improve. I need to be complete. And so I'm looking outside to get that completeness. And what all the spiritual practices that we have spoken in last 1.5 years is saying, isko ulta karke andar dekho. Because the complete source of completeness is behind you, not outside. So we are trying to say, go within. Moment you go within, whether you do it bhajan or Narayan Seva or meditation or whichever techniques you use, moment you focus, turn the mind inward, where the source of completeness is, naturally your desires will reduce. Because now you're going to the source of completeness. So in short, farther we are away from source of completeness, more the desires in life. Closer we are to the source of completeness, lesser the number of desires. You getting the point? The more and more closer we are to the source of completeness, whatever completeness, you may use different words to it. You may call it Swami, Jesus, Allah, Zoroaster, Mahavir, or whatever name, or divine energy, soul, Atma, whatever you want. The source of energy, source of completeness. The more we are closer, the less the desire, because we are complete. We don't need anything more to be complete. But we are not there and we are looking outside, and that's why the more farther we are, the more the desires we are trying to look outside to get that completeness. And the game of life is, even if you get satisfaction out of desires, it leads to further more desires. As one of you said, that attachment, expectations badhte jata. And to bring to that point of Bindu Bhaiya's point, it brings to another birth for us. Because we are now born with new desires to complete. And this chakkar chalte rehta hai, till we come to a level when one fine day mind or ego understands that this is not the way to satisfy myself. I need to look within for my completeness. And wo journey towards more and more being closer to your real self will start eliminating the desires. Automatically, there is no control required. Desires will just fall off. Because the source of completeness is giving you completeness already. The mind also starts feeling that completeness in the divine company of the real self. It doesn't require any more, I need a Mercedes Benz or I need this, nothing. All the material desires just fall off. Usko chote mein pasand hai, because what is very basic requirement to maintain my body, maintain my clothing, maintain my food, that's all I need. Because rest everything I've already got from a source of completeness, which is my real self. So that motherhood question of how do we control desires, how do we have ceiling on desires, isko kaise karna hai? Simple answer, turn inward.
We have to detach ourselves from everything. Detach karna.
Agreed, but detachment is not easy. Can you detach this morning and say, I don't want?
You have to practice. Detachment is definitely not easy.
So how do we get detachment from the world? Again, Swami has given a beautiful answer. Detachment from the world cannot be practiced. Attachment to God can be practiced. Moment you attach to God or real self or source of completeness, source of joy, source of everlasting bliss, the detachment automatically happens as a byproduct. So our entire energy has to be focused on getting attached to God or getting attached to the source of completeness, getting attached to the divinity. बाकी सब automatic हो जाएगा. It's like that example. Remember, there's in the school we are taught कि इतनी छोटी सी line है, इसको अगर छोटी करनी है without touching it, what will you do? ऊपर बड़ी line draw कर लो. Which is what the line of detachment is this to the line of attachment to the world is this. But इसको छोटा करना है तो line of attachment to God has to be bigger. Automatically छोटा हो जाएगा. Okay, so this is the foundation of the entire topic. Mind you, I had not planned this question and this discussion on this area at all. Till this morning, I woke up with this. Maybe it was Swami's will. The foundation of everything is this. Why do I have desires? अगर वो आंसर हो गया, everything else resolved. जब तक मैं बाहर रहता हूँ, तब तक मैं desires लेते रहूँगा, thinking that I'll find happiness. The only thing is we need to just make a small twist, let it go within. Automatically ceiling on desires हो जाएगा. And till that mind or ego which we call, or that cloth on that bulb that we saw, till it becomes from black to gray to white to absolutely chhed wala cloth, and finally the cloth is gone, the mind is gone, the ego is gone, desires are also gone, which is where Swami says man minus desire is equal to God. Then is one with divinity. There is absolutely no desires left because वो अपने आप में complete हो चुका है. There is no more hunger to ask मुझे ये चाहिए वो चाहिए. Everything I've got. I'm the source of everything. That is what the stage it is. But that's obviously the highest stage. Uske liye it's not easy for us to reach. And that's why Swami very, very beautifully says to us, he's not expecting us to be desireless. That's a very high state. He says, have ceiling on desires. So actually target बहुत आसान कर लिया अपने लिए. कि आप desires minus मत करो, but at least have ceiling on desires. Because you will have ceiling on desires, you will at least remain closer to the source of completeness. Seeing the difference of the entire thing. So what we say about food, money, energy, time, saving automatically हो जाएगा. If you are looking at this, many times we feel ज़्यादा खाने से खुशी मिलेगी. ज़्यादा time spent करने से, if I see 2 movies at a time, 3 hours, 6 hours, probably I'll be very happy. It is source. I'm not saying it's not happy. It is happiness, but very temporary. वो time 6 घंटा जैसे हो जाता है, you're back in misery. And then again the mind will hanker. Can I find somewhere else a source of joy? Can I find somewhere else some satisfaction? ये चक्कर चलता रहेगा जब तक mind खुद नहीं समझेगा कि I need to look within. This is not the thing which I wanted in the world. It is forced, and that's why most of us, when we face difficulties in life, God is only telling us the same thing. इसमें संसार में कुछ नहीं है, आपको अंदर ही जाना है. That is where the root is, happiness is. So a lot of difficulties when we face in life is actually a boon, and that's why Kunti prayed to Krishna that give me more and more difficulties in life so that I can be always in tune with you. I'll always think about or remember you. Is it clear or is it becoming difficult?
But sometimes what happens, difficulties definitely turn you towards God. The urge for God increases. But sometimes when you're too much in difficulty, you have no time to focus also. That also happens, though you are connected inside. So, we even desire for some peace. We desire for some basic level of, kind of stability we desire for in our lives, which is not in our hands again. So to be untouched by all these ups and downs, whether it's for your family or anything, it need not be desire for a material thing or for a car or a house. It can just be desire for being left to be able to concentrate on God. Sometimes even that becomes difficult. Means you want God to say, okay, and I'll give you a break now. Let me, even to sit and think of God, you need a basic some kind of peace level. And if you're surrounded by the world and the problems, sometimes even that becomes difficult. So even that desire, I think that desire for that kind of peace isn't bad, but we have to learn, even in spite of all that, to remain unruffled and equanimous and all that, I think. But that is also a desire, which I have sometimes. All the time, dukh se, too much dukh se bhi Bhagwan ko yaad karna mushkil ho jata hai kabhi.
I agree. So, the God is so kind.
Yes.
God is so kind. I'm telling you out of my experience, God is very, very kind. When you are burdened with too many things, you have to just tell him, thodi si aach kam karo. It's like a gas stove. We are boiling on gas. And he does it. He does it till you recuperate. And moment you recuperate, again he does, because he wants to finish off the karmas fast.
True, true.
The more and more closer you want to be God, to God, the source of completeness, all the karma theory that we discussed, those are getting evaporated very fast.
He gives us breaks in between, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And see, the leading to equanimity is again very, it's a milestone on that ultimate journey of becoming one with him. But even at our level, at gross level, we can build a relationship with God, the source of completeness, and have a regular conversation with him. So even in the worst of times in our life, if you have somebody to speak to, which is a source of joy, source of completeness, that is a great help.
Definitely. It brings you back into equilibrium faster. We may be getting, ruffled and things, but that connection is there. So you're back in balance faster. That's true.
Exactly.
Siddharth, I think there's a comment on the group, and also Kabir bhai had raised his hand in the middle. I don't know if he still wants to speak.
Kabir, yeah.
I'd read something about a devotee of Mahavatar Babaji, and he had very well explained this. He had said that we are basically, there's a gap in believing what our true nature is. Our true nature is love. That's why we kind of connect with people. And we are all the time seeking that love through various things, maybe trying to get that recognition from people, because we are looking for that love. Our true nature is power, because that's why we are all the time trying to take control, trying to lead, trying to do those things. And so on and so forth, that's our true nature. And he says, the problem is we keep on missing that understanding. And because we keep on missing that understanding, that our true nature is already there, which we have failed to recognize, we keep on doing things outside, trying to get that recognition from the outside world and get the love, get the attention. And because we are already one with everything inside, and there are layers, it's like an onion layer. There are layers and layers and layers. And because we have covered ourselves with those layers, we try to, achieve materialistic things, try to find happiness, because our true nature is actually that. So we don't know that. And hence we look at it outside. But that gap in understanding is causing these problems. And the gap in understanding is causing this entire thing to start.
I think very, very beautifully said. Maybe you actually brought a point which I was planning to discuss in the later half of the session, but it's fine. There is something called onion peel meditation. I know we have touched upon it in our meditation, types of meditation that we saw. Okay, it's not patented by anybody. It is just it's just a word used as an onion peel, because you said about onion layers. I was reminded of that. See, one way of doing it is, because we are gathered so much in the world. Okay, we sit peacefully, quietly, and start unlayering ourselves, like an onion, peeling the onion. So, pehle office chala gaya. I'm not the office. Office is a gathered, relationship. Then uske baad aaya, the society, the family members, the extended family members. Then came family members. Then came spouse and children. Then came myself, which includes the body, mind, and the entire complex that is there. Then eventually, body ko bhi nikal ke baaju mein rakh do, mind ko nikal. Finally, what is left is the ultimate self. So I'm explaining in a very lucid way. It's not that easy to get through so quickly, but that is how you unlayer or peel the onion and try to arrive at the source of completeness, source of joy, source of happiness. And consistently we remain there, we'll be in a position to feel complete, and we'll start having lesser and lesser and lesser desires of anything in the world. So one way, one technique, since I'm shuffling between fourth and fifth question, but the fifth question of how do we do it, one way of doing it is this onion peel meditation. Or just silent sitting. You don't have to go so much into deep and try to be one with divinity. It's not the agenda of that meditation. Mainly just trying to unlayer ourselves. Visualize ourselves. Today I'm made up of so many things. My titles, at home I have a title, in office I have a title, among my friend circles I have a title. All those titles that are gained, that is out. So the extended relationships are out. All which I've gained over the period of time. When I was born, I didn't have any of this. I've gained over the last so many years. So I'm trying to go back to the root of unlayering and coming back to the source. That one way, if you consistently do this practice, we'll be more and more closer to the source of completeness, which is one way of twisting the mind inward and not looking outside for satisfaction. Okay.
Even having this thought helps, because at least we find the direction of the way to think.
Yes, very much.
At least it puts the seed.
Absolutely. And okay, one question here is on the chat, maybe that comes with age and continuous abhyas. Yes, continuous abhyas, very much, which we just saw. All these things we'll have to practice hard to reach that state, but not necessarily it comes with age. See, if we have evolved in the past life, we will start very early in our life, in this birth. Okay, and that brings to the next point. The beauty of this entire spiritual game is whatever investments we do in this field, they are permanent. Okay, they are absolutely permanent.
Nothing goes waste.
Nothing goes. One meditation session in the entire lifespan of 70 years. You will start the next life from the second meditation. The first meditation ka thoda sa fruit to chalega. It carries forward. Unlike the material desire, so again it comes back to the desire. What kind of desires we need to have? Anything that is material into the world, they are temporary. And जैसे हम लोग body छोड़ेंगे वो छोड़ के चले जाएंगे. But spiritual desires, जो भी है, we will carry forward to the next life. So not necessarily it comes by age. Depends which level of journey, stage of journey we are in that field. There are many people in the world who start at infant age से उनको spiritual evolution दिख रहा है. They are able to connect very beautifully. They are able to meditate. I have seen so many small tiny kids who are able to meditate far better than any of us. So you may wonder, "Arey, kaisa hai?" But that because of the spiritual journey of the past lives, and the soul has reached that level. So age is not the factor. It is a factor of how much investment we have done in this journey. So even among the set of desires, let's invest in the desires of God, desires of spirituality, desires of divinity, which has return on investment eternal, permanent returns. The best investment in our entire lifetime, and not invest in the desires of the world, which are temporary. That's why the famous story of Alexander the Great, when he passed away, he said, before he passed away, he said that when you bury me, keep my hands outside. So his people were like wondering why it is so. He said, the world should know that such a great Alexander also left empty-handed. Okay, so among the set of desires, so all that we are discussing right now, it may look a little jumbled for all of us, but we said about the root cause of desire is we are looking external and trying to find completeness. Okay, so answer is turn inward, look for internal source, which is a source of completeness within each one of us. One way of doing is that onion peel meditation, okay, where we start delayering ourselves and go more and more naturally towards this. This will not come by one sitting. It may come through abhyas, as one of you said. Okay, it doesn't come, not necessarily come by age. At any level, any age, we can start off the journey. It will have a permanent returns. Okay, these are all spiritual benefits of sealing on desires. Last session, we spoke about material benefits of time, money, food, energy. If you are hitting the root, the spiritual benefits of sealing on desires, automatically money, food, time, energy is taken care of. आसान हो जाएगा. Because moment more and more closer you are to the completeness, your hunger for eating more will reduce. Your desire to watch multiple movies will reduce. Your desire and craving, to spend and find happiness outside will reduce. Your desire to literally hog more and more, maybe 10 batata vadas also will reduce. I'll be happy with one or two. I'm very, very happy with one or two. My desires are completely satisfied. Ek khaya, do khaya, bahut ho gaya. I don't need to eat 10 to satisfy myself. So automatically, time, money, food, energy, desires will come to a bare minimum need. What I need to sustain my body. वहां तक वो लेवल पे पहुंच जाएगा, बिकॉज बाकी सारा सुख आत्मिक सुख है जो हम लोग को अंदर से मिल रहा है. I don't need to hunt anywhere outside. And ये करते 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 time comes, acceptance levels improve, attitude of gratitude comes naturally to us, because we are so complete within, so satisfied, and I'm not looking anywhere. I'll start counting the blessings, and that is further pushing me towards lesser and lesser desires, because I'm so happy that I don't need to get something from outside to maintain my happiness. मैं already खुश हूँ. Why do I need? Means आपने बोला okay, for your happiness I'll come with you to watch a movie, but I don't have any more craving because I'm already happy. I don't need to depend on anything outside to make myself happy. This is another important lesson for all of us is, moment we start depending on external things to keep our happiness levels, automatically we are giving the source of joy and happiness to others. The world will decide whether I should be happy or not myself. Because my chabi of happiness is in somebody's hand. You seeing the difference? So I can get swayed of my moods and emotions based on how the world is. That means I'm completely out of control about myself. I can never decide about my life. When I'm looking in external world, when I'm looking for source of happiness and completeness outside, I'm trying to fulfill those happiness and completeness outside through desires. I'm actually going through a very, very dangerous period, because everything outside will decide my source of happiness. And tomorrow it doesn't happen as per my liking, I'll be miserable. So my level of happiness and joy will be decided by the world, not by me. And in that sense, I am actually a slave. I'm no longer a master. I'm a slave. So all of you will decide whether I should be happy or not. Tomorrow you get angry on me, I'll be very unhappy. I'll be dissatisfied. Whereas if I'm in touch with my source of completeness, and my no longer desires are waiting for outside to find that source of completeness, I will be far more stable, far more peaceful, and my ability to solve life problems is far better. It's not that a person who is very close to the source of completeness will not have problems. He'll have more problems, but his ability to solve the problems is very high, because mind is very calm and quiet. When mind is calm and quiet, we are able to find solutions to a problem than an agitated mind. Because जैसे source of completeness की तरफ जाएंगे हम लोग, naturally what will happen to us? Agitations will reduce. That what we said, expectations will reduce, attachments will reduce, desires will reduce, craving will reduce, lack of interest in finding, even finding one-upmanship with others. I will no longer be swayed by the comparisons of with somebody is better than me. I'm happy with my Cambridge shirt. I'm happy with my slippers and three-wheelers. I'll not be swayed by Mercedes-Benz or the branded shirts which Ashutosh will wear in front of me and come. I'm very happy with myself. And that breeds tremendous confidence. You're seeing this, these are spiritual benefits of sealing on desires. That will breed tremendous confidence, because I can stand on my own. I'm not depending on anybody else to give me that satisfaction. Is it becoming difficult, confusing, or is it clear?
Clear.
Very beautiful.
So
I wish Kavita ji would also say something.
He is already saying it so beautifully that, yeah, I need not talk anything. It's better I keep myself. I shut my mouth.
He is too good. He's really too good.
He's really good. He's very good.
He is very good.
Yes.
Continue.
Okay, I'll just share I'll share a couple of slides, which is Swami's message directly, which will provide sum and substance to everything that we discussed. Okay, just allow me to share my screen. Let me know if you're able to see the screen. You're able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know how to remove this. You're able to see some bar on the top. Some covering on the top. I don't know. I'm trying to remove it.
No, that's only on your end, Siddharth. I think when we see, we don't see it. So
Okay,
go
great.
ahead.
Okay, great. So it's a vicious cycle of desire. All that you guys said in the beginning is exactly this. You know, we use our senses into the world, okay, which leads to mental stickiness. Okay, stickiness leads to attachment. Attachment leads to expectations. Expectation leads to desires. Desires makes us accumulate shad ripus of kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. Because desires na craving hai. So all this anger, jealousy will come naturally to satisfy those desires. Agar hota to theek nahi hota to shad ripus hota hai, and then finally it again impacts the usage of senses. So this is a vicious cycle of desires, which will go on and on and on in our lives. Isko todna hai, to what we said, go back to the root, the source of completeness, source of joy, source of happiness. And wo karne se usage of senses will purify. Usage of senses on the top. Wahan se root cause hai. Mera senses will only think, as again going back to Swami's message, see what is good, do what is good, hear what is good, speak what is good. This is the way to God, as Swami says. So our entire karmendriyas, jnanendriyas, the usage of senses will get purified as we go more and more towards source of completeness. Uske wajah se ye pura cycle toot jayega. Mental stickiness nahi hoga, to attachment nahi hoga, to expectations bhi nahi hoga, desires bhi nahi hoga. Shad ripus also will be completely subdued. And further it will feed back to usage of senses. So while this is a negative cycle which we see, by just taking care of usage of senses on the top, which we again has discussed a lot in the past sessions, of whatever inputs we take within has to be purified. If we take negative inputs through eyes, nose, ears, mouth, obviously we are feeding negativity, which will lead to stickiness and attachment and all that. But if you have a usage of senses which are pure and divine, this cycle can be broken. Okay. And usage of senses also will lead us to closer and closer towards source of completeness. So mental stickiness, attachment, जो बाहरी चीजें होगा ही नहीं अपने से, automatically वो छूट जाएगा. That is how we break the cycle of desires. And naturally the desires start reducing. In fact, इतना automatically गिर जाएगा कि you will not be interested in all these things. Okay. So this is the cycle of desire which we need to keep in mind. Now here is Swami's message. This is the complete letter. It may not be easy for you to read, so I have created another closer image. Okay, so what does it say? Sorry, I'm not able to see. The first line is, are you able to see this clearly?
Yeah.
Letter, you're able to read it?
No.
Yes, Siddharth, I think it's very clear.
Okay. This is Swami's own letter in his own handwriting, written in 20th October 1979, where he says, freedom is independence from externals. Which is what we just spoke about, right? कि मैं खुद की खुशी की चाबी या happiness की चाबी मैं बाहर दूंगा, then I'm not independent. My freedom is independence from externals, and externals independence kabhi hoga when we are focusing within, internal. Okay, so second line is, one who is in need of the help of another person or a thing or a condition is a slave thereof. Which is again what we saw, we just discussed a few minutes ago. My happiness is dependent on your behavior. Means you will decide whether I should be happy or not. In that sense, I'm a slave. So Swami says in the third statement, perfect freedom is not given to any man on earth. Okay? Because the very meaning of mortal life is relationship with and dependence on another The lesser the number of wants, the greater is the freedom. Hence, perfect freedom is absolute desirelessness. Swami has actually written the entire Vedas in 4 lines. So that's why Swami says, ceiling on desires. We are all mortal human beings. We cannot have perfect freedom. The last statement is perfect freedom is absolute desirelessness, which is man minus desires equal to God. That is the last level before we become one with Him. Okay, but before that, in the journey that we all of us are in, which is where he says, the lesser the number of wants, the greater is the freedom. So agar apne ko jada freedom chahiye, we want to be really, really free and happy and joyful, lesser the wants, lesser the desires. Okay, very clearly Swami is mentioned in this letter. And this can happen only because what we saw, the techniques and all that we discussed about focusing within, going back to the source of completeness. We no longer look outside for any more desires to feel complete. So lesser and lesser wants will have more and more freedom for us. Okay. Here is one more message. Okay. Here he says, your life is a long journey. You should have less luggage, that is desires, in this long journey of life. Therefore, it is said, less luggage, more comfort makes travel a pleasure. Travel means our life becomes much more simple, easy, and comfortable. So, ceiling on desires is what you have to adopt today. You have to cut short your desires day by day. You are under the mistaken notion that happiness lies in the fulfillment of desires. But in fact, happiness begins to dawn when desires are totally eradicated. I think this is Swami is hitting the nail on the head through this message. Because ultimately, everything that we do in life, family, money, salary, education, relationship, movies, pick up any damn thing in the world that we go outward to fulfill, are basically ultimate result is happiness, right? If you go on analyzing why I got educated, because I can get a good job. Okay, what I will do by getting a good job, I'll get a better salary. Okay, what will I do with the salary? Okay, I'll have all the needs and wants and the requirements fulfilled of house, family, food, clothing, whatever. Okay, what I will do post means why am I doing that? Basically to make myself comfortable. Why I'm making myself comfortable? So that I can be peaceful. Why I want to be peaceful? So that I can be happy. So it's coming back to the source is happiness. Everything that we do in life, actually, it's again a homework for us. When we go back today and, deep analyze within introspection, again, it's a Jain Paryushan festival, introspection festival. Introspect karenge to ye pata chalega, every action that we do, every desire we do, every want we are putting across in our life it's only one focus is I want happiness. I want peace and happiness. If I were to break into 2 words, I want peace and happiness. Everything is means to achieve that end in our life.
Even meditation.
Even meditation. Pick up anything. Our entire purpose of life is now focusing on achieving peace and happiness. और ये क्यों हो रहा है? Because हम लोग source of peace और happiness से दूर चले गए. इसलिए वो mind जो है originally which got emanated from the soul is hungry for its real self which it wants to go back. लेकिन उसको यहाँ पर नजरिया नहीं मिल रहा है, वो बाहर जाके ढूंढ रहा है सब जगह कि यहाँ मिलेगा, यहाँ मिलेगा, यहाँ मिलेगा. इसलिए डिजायर पे वो चलता गया and then a cycle of birth and death continued till it comes to a level where the mind gets tired and says, boss, मैं नहीं कर पाऊंगा. I think I'm going in the wrong direction. I need to look somewhere else for my eternal happiness, which is my real source. And that is where it comes back. It comes back, and all of us, in fact, on this satsang, we are there because we have actually reached that stage. Our mind is asking those questions: "Ki bhaiya kab tak karoge? मैं कहाँ पर सुख और शांति पाऊंगा? Where do I go? What do I do? Where should I look for? Because I've seen the world, I'm not able to get anywhere to that happiness which I'm desiring of." And so we came together on a satsang and said, let's discuss about this topic. And Swami gave it very beautifully. Happiness begins to dawn when desires are totally eradicated. And this can happen when we turn inwards more and more towards the source of happiness, source of completeness, source of joy, which is our real nature. We are actually complete, but because the ego, the mind, which has got farther and farther and farther away from the source, all this mystical notion of desires has got as a web around us, which is actually putting into the Maya. And ये Maya के वजह से life and death होते जा रहा है. And that's why I go back to the first statement we began in the first session, that असतो मा प्रेयर हम लोग कर रहे हैं, उसमें इसका आंसर है मृत्योर मा अमृतम गमय. From the cycle of birth and death, may I reach the source, may I reach the immortality, which is where the ceiling on desires, though it sounds very simplistic topic, actually if we follow this, we will achieve the highest state of realization. You don't need anything else. इसमें सब आ जाता है, मेडिटेशन भी आ गया, साइलेंट सिटिंग आ गया, टॉकिंग लेस आ गया, कम खाना आ गया, हेल्थ आ गया, बेनिफिट, सब चीज आ गया. Isn't it? So this is something which I think we are past 7:30, but this is what I wanted to share. We can go on discussing facets of this, but the root is this. The foundation is this. If you have got this clearly, I think we have done. Okay, any questions before we end, or any other perspectives?
Right.
Yeah, Bindu bhaiya.
Yeah,
Sairam, brother, very absorbing on going through all this. Again, if we don't have the desire, we won't be sitting here also. I think this is the part which we have to look into, that what you said earlier is to divinize and try to make everything spiritual. I remember hearing in Radio Sai when Professor Venkatraman was given a golden pen by Swami. He was not using it because when he got an interview, Swami said, "Where is the pen?" So he says, "Swami, I use it only when you are giving discourses to note down. For other things, I don't use it." And then Swami told him that, how can you separate any other work not to be Swami's work? And that brings me to connect that how can we, if we work on this, that we try to divinize the desires, at least try to spiritualize them, try to connect Swami somewhere or the other. Because when Rama was told to go to exile, Sita left everything, all the kama, all the desires for the palace. And in the forest, the moment kama came in, Rama went away. So when this kama, which is desire, the moment you put R in that kama, it becomes karma, and then karma becomes karma yoga. So when Rama gets attached to the kama, it becomes for us the karma, and that is something which is going to liberate us at the end of the day. So desire is there. It is important, I feel, because until we'll come to that stage, but definitely what we can do is we can change the direction. And if you look at the word desire, I feel there's a word, if you break into two, ire is there. Ire means anger. So desire is something which already has a component of getting unsatisfied, resentment, because it leads us to that state eventually, because it doesn't end with one desire. So somewhere we have to make the choice, in these beautiful sessions, what inspires us, whether values or valuables, whether we are going to talk about bar or darbar. So these are important things which we can divinize by changing the course of direction of the desire initially. And then, yes, come to a state with what Swami has said, that at the end of desires is true happiness. Because happiness, somewhere, again in Radio Sai, I saw it, very beautiful equation. It said that happiness is equal to number of desires fulfilled divided by number of desires entertained. So normally we entertain a lot of desires. So when you look at this proportion, this equation, the happiness can never be full. Why? Because you're entertaining much more desires, and the fulfillment is hardly a simple, percentage of it. And that again tells us that, yes, we need to have ceiling on desires. And that is possibly where these sessions will lead us to that. Thank you, Sairam.
Very, very beautifully mentioned by you. Thank you for bringing that nice perspective. I think you are literally emulating Swami's pun on words, bar and darbar and desire and ire, very nicely done. It'll remember for long, long time to come for us.
Right.
But yeah, so just giving the equation of what you said, reduce the denominator as much as possible. Your percentage of your satisfaction and happiness increases.
Right.
Great. Anybody else? Any questions? Any alternate thoughts?
Yeah, I think everybody is still absorbing. I think it's as I don't want to mess it up any more in the sense very beautifully summed up Siddharth. I think it very logically flowed. We all have a better understanding of uh, here and there in parts and bits. We have heard about most of these things, but connecting it all together and seeing how we can actually use it in our life to make a little improvement every day. That's what is going to be important. So I think you and everybody here else, today we had a lot of participation, a lot of interesting thoughts by everybody, so thanks for that. But I think if there's one thing we should take away from every session is can we make it a little better every single day and feel better about it. So with that being said, I don't think we're getting any more questions, comments. We'll give it last 5 seconds. Otherwise, we'll probably finish it with Samastaloka, Siddharth. Or you have anything else?
No, I think some of you may go back home and say, okay, what do we do now? What's the next steps? I think the next step is simple. We have understood the source, where the root of desires is coming from. All that practices we have done in the past, we discussed in the past, be it meditation or developing the faith. So many topics we took up, karma. Basically, Guma Phira ke, the practices and techniques will come connected to that. But a most basic thing we can do is list out a list of desires that we have. It's not easy. You take a pen and paper, it'll take some time. मेरे जिंदगी में क्या-क्या desires है मुझे अभी. And then segregating into borrowed and internal desires. It will come down to very minimal, hardly any internal desire. Borrowed desires ही ज़्यादा रहेंगे. And borrowed desires को हम लोग knock off कर लेंगे practically with this added understanding that Bhagwan has blessed us with. Then practically your denominator will come down drastically and your source of percentage or proportion of happiness will naturally improve. So this kind of homework that we can do as a next step to put into practice, and I think keep having the introspection. That's the best way. There's no scientific technique to remove desires. If had would have been there, we would have taken that medicine and like a vaccine and we are out of all desires. That is not possible. We'll have to do that abhyasa, as Nino Aunty said, and that will give us the ultimate journey. Yeah, Ushanti.
Another idea just struck me that now we know that desires is what causes, in fact, unhappiness rather than happiness. So every time we are unhappy or not in a good frame of mind, or we feel that something is bothering us, we should go to the root cause and see which is the desire which hasn't been fulfilled. And the moment we watch and we know it, it will go. Because it's like, when you are aware that this is what is causing me unhappiness, this desire is not being fulfilled, then that itself sheds light on the desire, and the desire doesn't have that much strength and power left.
Absolutely. I think very nicely said. It's like watching a child. The child is playing, and suddenly you watch and become conscious and stop. That's true. Okay, if nobody has any comments or any questions, maybe we can close. Over to you, Ashutosh.
Yeah, that's it. Let's just finish up with Samastaloka and Shanti. And then we'll connect in a couple of weeks again. All right. Sorry, everyone. Om Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Everyone, Sairam, have a great
Sairam.
Thank you, Sairam.
Thank you. Beautiful session.
Sairam.
Sairam, thank you.
Sairam.
Saira.